best, number one and nothing less. Lead me to my destiny. I have waited patiently. I have vision, though I believe. I know I can count on me. So stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up, stand up, stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up, stand up, stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up.
To you, thank you. On Fair Play. Fair Play is that program that comes to you every Monday between 12:30 and 1 o'clock in the afternoon here on NTA Channel 12 with you. And as you already know, on Fair Play we discuss sports, everything sports. And for a reason it comes to you on Monday afternoon, because it gives us that opportunity to discuss everything sports, especially as did happen over the weekend. And of course it also gives us an opportunity to project into what the new week will look like. My name is Dianime Uko. As always, I will not be sitting here alone today. Today you won't be having John Paul Alumona, but another guest who you will get to know in a minute. On the program today, we will be bringing you up to speed with things that did happen over the weekend. It was the biggest weekend that we waited for after almost every league in Europe had ended, and that was the UEFA Champions League final. We had expected it, we had long waited for it. Of course, there were other finals intermittently, the Europa League final, the Conference League final, but of course the biggest, the UEFA Champions League final. It did happen over the weekend. It did live up to the hype. Well, we're going to know in the course of the program. We also did have the CAF Champions League finals did happen over the weekend. It was also expected. Of course, we will bring you up to speed with what the scoreline was. The National Sports Festival also did come to an end. The Unity Cup, which happened at the Brentford Stadium in the United Kingdom, which had the Super Eagles also take a part. That, will also come to you in the course of the program. And of course, to discuss this and do justice to all of the tantrums that I'll be throwing very soon, I have my friend, my brother, Basi Ibiarisowo. He is a sports journalist and of course an analyst too. Good afternoon, John. Basi Ibiarisowo, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Johnny. It's so good to be here after a sport-filled weekend, and of course we saw lots and lots of sporting activities. So it's just good that on a Monday morning or a Monday afternoon like this, we get to talk about what we saw and of course what is to come in the week.
Okay, let's begin with the UEFA Champions League. What did Inter Milan go to Munich to do over the weekend?
Well, I think for me it wasn't so much of a surprise, that at the end of the day PSG won. But what was surprising was, the style of play that Inter Milan put out there, lackluster, if you say. And of course, for a final in the UEFA Champions League, everyone would have expected fireworks. They were so determined in the semi-finals playing against Barcelona, and so we're thinking that okay, if these guys were able to push Barcelona away, then just maybe we should expect a great game in the final against PSG. But you also have to look at PSG. Before that meeting, they made 5 times. PSG won 3 times, drew 1. So they only lost once in their last 5 meetings against Inter Milan, and so that was their 6th meeting. So now in all, you can say out of 6 meetings, you have PSG winning 4 times, Inter Milan winning just 1, and of course 1 ending in a draw. So that's the clear dominance from the French giant against Inter Milan. But on a night where we expected, great football action from Inter Milan, most especially from 12 minutes, I think that was the end of it when we saw the first goal, and the goals kept coming in. And for me, that was not a typical final in the UEFA Champions League.
So which of the matches in the build-up to the final was the final before the final for you?
Well, I was hearing Arsenal playing against PSG was one that should should have waited for a final. It was a spectacle, one football game that you couldn't just stay on your seats. You know, you have to be standing most of the games to see the spirited Arsenal side, you know, putting out their best outing right there. But unfortunately, you will always have to give it up to PSG because they have this, superior technical ability in that particular game against Arsenal. But for me, I think the game between PSG, Arsenal, even the game Inter Milan, Barcelona was still, somewhat of a final. You know, if you look at the tactical play and of course the energy in that game, but definitely not the one PSG against Inter Milan. But why not? We have to congratulate PSG, the French giant. They've been coming around very trying to get this particular trophy, and on that night they were able to get it against Inter Milan, ruling Europe now for the very first time in their history. And I think it wasn't something that they should go and kill themselves. But unfortunately, after that game, we realized that sold over 200 cars.
If you were to ask me what match made the final before the final, I would say Inter Milan up against Barcelona, because that match didn't live up to the hype. Exactly. We had expected that goals would come, and of course the goals came. And just like you said, we did not even get it done. That match was not done in the 90th minute. Yeah. It had to extend for that one goal, that one all-important goal to come. And it was fireworks on both ends. This final, not just the final, not just to get to the final, but
fantastic throughout the whole campaign. Putting even in the domestic leagues, I think he scored about 21 or 22 goals, and so that's fantastic for PSG to get to where they were. For me, I want to say what made PSG actually triumph that night was they were hungry. I think they were more hungry for this title, more than Inter Milan. Now, Inter Milan, they've won this before. Last edition, they finished as runners up. They've been coming very close, including PSG, who also fell in the final in 2020. And so, but for PSG, they wanted it more because they've never touched or raised this particular trophy. And so, for the night they had that opportunity, I think that was just the best way for them to go home.
Well, if you want to look at the the team of the season in the entire UEFA Champions League team of the season, that for me showed PSG's dominance. Exactly. From the goal, in the defense, in the midfield, and up to the attack. They have a Donnarumma in the defense and in the goal. They have a Nuno Mendes in the defense. They have a Marquinhos in the defense. They have Achraf Hakimi in the defense. In the midfield, there was a Vitinha, who once played for Wolves, and of course they did not really do much. Then up front, like you've mentioned, there is the Ousmane Dembele, and there's that duo of a young player who was relatively unknown, but of course made his way into the annals of history. For Ousmane Dembele and of course for Achraf Hakimi, three players. The third person is Marquinhos, who's been there, who has kept faith. Others left the team, but he kept faith with the team. Could this have also made a difference?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Having a blend of experience and young players, I think that's one of the things lacking in clubs like Manchester United, where sometimes you see the faces and you're asking, is this an academy? What's happening? But they're able to keep some of these senior players back, and they are tutoring the young ones, and the young ones are blending in seamlessly. So fantastic, having those key players right there. Of course, I already mentioned Dembele, talking about Hakimi, Marquinhos, and a whole lot of them. That actually shows you that this was PSG season. We should give it to them. They did well in the Champions League campaign, and I'm happy that at the end of the day they were able to lift the trophy.
One player there, when we discussed football back in Africa, Achraf Hakimi, and the next question we will be asking is, will he make the cut as the next African best player? Reason is we have Victor Osimhen, who's done well in Turkey. We also have a Mohamed Salah, who's done well in the English Premier League. Who will you give this to if you were to present this trophy?
Well, for me, I think Achraf Hakimi has not gotten his flowers enough. He has been a fantastic player, but when selection for the best player in the world, the best player in Africa comes up, usually the strikers are more favored than even the defenders. Remember when a certain Fabio Cannavaro won as a defender back then as the world best player? Many didn't believe, but he actually had a fantastic season. And now you're talking about
the World Cup.
Yes, at the World Cup, you're talking about Victor Osimhen also doing wonders with Galatasaray, the same season that we would have expected will go to Achraf Hakimi, but he's doing wonders. And at the end of the day, it boils down to voting what is to be. And in as much I'm a Nigerian, and of course that sentiment of having Osimhen, I want it to be after one Nigeria, another, like pass from Osimhen to Ademola Lookman. We should go back to Osimhen, so we should just be exchanging it that way. But that doesn't take anything away from Hakimi. He's been a fantastic player, and if he gets to win the best player in Africa, I think many will also applaud that.
Okay, back home, let's discuss the CAF Champions League. What we just discussed was the European Champions League. We come back to Africa. Unfortunately, the last we had a Nigerian get close was, I think, Rivers United a couple seasons ago. After that, no other Nigerian side has made it close. The last any African or any Nigerian side won was Zimbabwe back in 2001, 2004, thereabout. And since then, we've not had any Nigerian win this. This last one was Pyramid FC against Mamelodi Sundowns, and Pyramids, the Egyptian side, got this particular one. I'm not going to dwell on who won the trophy, but is there any hope for a Nigerian side getting as much as to the finals in the UEFA, in the CAF Champions League anytime soon?
Not anytime soon. Not anytime soon. It will need to put in about, say, 5 to 10 years, and that's just the truth about it. You know,
why?
When you look at the level of football development in the northern part of Africa, and then you compare it to, you know, what's happening in the western part of Africa, you know, you can't but just give it up to the North Africans, Arabs. They've done great. Football is played professionally there, and of course you're seeing everybody. You're seeing they do it like business, like what we watch in Europe. You know, I've had the opportunity to travel to Algeria to for CAF Confederations Cup, and then you get there, you see the facilities that these teams use in playing, and then you come back and look at Akwa United, you come back and look at Rivers United, and then you just know that this will not come anytime soon. So, but I really hope and pray in our lifetime we'll get to see, you know, another Nigerian side people. This is not going to come from just sitting down to wish for it. We are going to have to put in a lot of work, a lot of energy, a lot of investment to see how we can push ourselves there. We don't have players who can actually compete with those guys. That's the truth about it. We don't have players who can compete with them. So let's just hope that someday, but definitely not soon.
I had this conversation with John Paul Alumona last week, and we agreed at the point, and the point of agreement was consistency, lack of consistency. You've seen consistency in Remo Stars in the last how many seasons, and that culminated in that team winning the NPFL. We've also seen some level of consistency in Abia Warriors. Imama Mapakabo doing great with that team, and currently as we speak, they ended the season third on the log, and they will play on the continent. Can consistency make a difference in the NPFL?
Consistency without government policies. You know, one of the problems we have in Nigeria is that government handles and sponsors everything. Abia Warriors is being sponsored by
state government.
You're going to hear at the time they want to travel that there are funds have not been released enough for, you know, these players to travel, and then they were using connecting flights. Sometimes you're going to Sudan to play, you have to get to Qatar first, and then you connect the flight to Sudan. Before you get there, the players are already tired. We are talking about this team from North Africa that charter their flight from their country and touch down to the city they want to play. And when they come, they lodge in the best hotel in that city. They will ask which hotel is the best hotel in that city, and they lodge there. This shows seriousness. This shows people and a team that wants to succeed. But you know, when Nigerian teams travel there, they look for the cheapest hotel to sleep because there is no money. And so how can you, because money is a factor in football, how can you now go to compete at that level with a team highly motivated, a team with a gym, a team with a clubhouse, a team everything is being provided for, and you're coming from a place where you're coming absolutely from nothing? Your pitch is bad, government policies are hindering the growth of the club, so it's very difficult. Remo, yes, may be doing a great job because Soneme is someone who has been in the game. He has a football club outside this country. He knows how professional football should be done. I actually wish him the best, and I hope the Nigerian factor doesn't affect him when he's traveling. But for Abia Warriors, he's just here. In as much I would like for them to go far, but I don't still see them going far in the CAF Confederations Cup.
Very quickly, the Super Eagles did play, and of course they were included in a tournament, a four-team tournament, and they did play and they did win. Well, that tournament was not FIFA graded. However, we were able to see some players who hitherto not had game time play in that tournament. What's your overall assessment of the players? And of course, getting to the final, they played just 2 matches. They played against Ghana and finally
Jamaica.
against Jamaica. What was your takeaway from that tournament?
Great outing for Eric Chell and the boys. You know, he's still test running, still trying to understand, see the players that he will be using, you know, to execute the all-important, you know, World Cup qualifiers coming in. So I think that was those test games were very good for him, and we're hoping that he has been able to select or see the depth of his team. I was particularly excited seeing Tolu Arokundare having time to play, and of course, you know, he's a subject of transfer, you know, from his club to another club. But all the same, great one for them. I think this weekend they also have they have a friendly match against Russia,
yes.
And so, you know, having to test his players against some of these teams will help the coach to build us a great team. That's Chris Santos right after getting that final you know, goal for us. So I think it's a fantastic one. Let's hope that all of these test games will help him, because we must qualify for World Cup, and I think that's the reason why the Malian was brought. So whatever he needs to do, these test matches are all good for him.
Okay, when you say we must qualify for the World Cup, the next thing we will be thinking about is where we stand on the table and where we will be going to, the teams we will be playing, and what is the guarantee that Nigeria will qualify for the World Cup?
Well, Eric Chell has been unbeaten 4 matches now. He hasn't lost a game, and so we are hoping that, you know, when the World Cup comes, all we need to do is to win all our matches. And for me, looking at our opponents, with due respect to them, I don't think you know, winning all the remaining matches is something Nigeria can do.
You know, with South Africa.
With South Africa compared to the bulk of players, you know, sometimes we look at the quality we have in the Super Eagles right now. The African best player is in the Super Eagles of
the
Nigeria.
The last two.
The current Osimhen is on fire in Turkey right now. You know, Ola Aina is on fire for his club. Bassi is on fire for Fulham. These are players that have first team selection. They are playing regularly, and of course they are quality. And so when people mention, you know, South Africa, and then
but our result against South Africa
is not good.
Really shown.
It's not good. Yes, it's not good. And then we have to go there, you know, to go play South Africa. Have we beaten them there before? Yes, we have. Can we beat them? Yes, we can. So I think all we need to do is just to get ourselves together, be positive, because it's going to be terrible that we're missing another World Cup. You know, it's not going to be funny. Yes, we started on a 40 note. We're having 3 coaches to lead us in this particular campaign. It's not supposed to be so, but here we are. Can we qualify from here? Yes. Can we win all the remaining matches? It is possible. If the players determined to do it, I think we can actually do it with the vibes that we are having the new coach Eric bring to the team.
Very quickly back home, the National Sports Festival did happen, and of course that ended last week. We saw some states do very well. Bayelsa State, Rivers State, Delta State, Edo State, as always, of course, as expected. Akwa Ibom State, at the end of the day, came 10th. Yes, that's the final medals table as we have on our screen. Akwa Ibom State came 10th. And of course, there are lessons to learn. One of it, from my end, is the fact that the teams that are top, Delta, Bayelsa, Ogun, Rivers, Edo, Oyo, Lagos, FCT Ogun, and of course Akwa Ibom State. One thing must be in the middle, and that's still consistency, like I mentioned. After this tournament, where will we be keeping, or where will you, talking to other states, be keeping these athletes? Are you preparing them for the next tournament, or they'll have to go home? When it's time for the next tournament, you gather them again?
Well, the first is that I'm happy that most of the states in the top 5 are Niger Delta states, and so we can say kudos to the Niger Delta Sport Festival, because I think that was a good preparatory ground for, you know, some of these athletes going to the National Sport Festival. Akwa Ibom, was I disappointed? No, I wasn't, because we've always finished around that area, you know, 12, 10, 12, 13.
So it means we're
14.
not making progress.
Yes, we are not making progress, and of course we also have to tell ourselves the truth that you know, I heard stories that some of our athletes, they went there, they even had to borrow equipment from, you know,
borrow kits
from neighboring state. But you see Delta State, like I heard, they are like the karate, a particular sword used for that particular sport, one of it is about 120,000, and Delta came with 10. 10 more than the number of athletes they needed, but Akwa Ibom just had 2, and those 2 I think they even hired them. So you can't compete. It's the same thing we're talking about football, Nigeria, and clubs in North Africa. You can't compete favorably well with these states that are well sport friendly. Last time we had a media palace, a question was asked the governor, you've not really done anything in sports since you separated Ministry of Youth and Sport. Should we call you a non-friendly sports governor? And he said, well, to some extent you can call me that, to some extent you can also call me that. So it shows you the direction that maybe for states that have a template for sport development, for like Delta, like Bayelsa, like Ogun State, like Lagos, they will always be successful at national sport field. Akwa Ibom doesn't have a template when it comes to sport development. We have to tell ourselves the truth. Go around the stadium, go around the facility, ask yourself, where do these athletes train? The karate, the boxing, where do they train? Where are the facilities? They are not there. We're only talking about Godswill Akpabio International Stadium that has only a football pitch. It doesn't have any indoor sports, a track and nothing. So where volleyball players, where do you train? Cricket, all of those other sports, where do you train? They actually don't have this facility. So I think we need to go back, and I'm happy that beginning from today there is a retreat in the Ministry of Sport going right now, 3 days to look at what they did right, what they didn't do right, what they need. And I think Elder Paul Bassi, if he's given time, is going to reposition sport when it comes to Akwa Ibom.
The governor had asked that Elder Paul Bassi be given a little more time, and like you said, a retreat is currently ongoing, but there were recommendations that were made after the Niger Delta Sports Festival.
Yeah.
These recommendations, how far? Have you any idea what's happening to those recommendations currently in the Ministry of Sport?
Well, I think those ones were mainly to look at the issues of protests that we had here. People accusing coaches of taking monies away and not giving to athletes. Yes, the recommendations have been given, the ministry received it, and they say they are implementing. But from the day the recommendation was given, it was just a week before the sport festival started. So it's not possible that the ministry would have implemented those recommendations before the sport festival. So it's good they are coming back now for a retreat. They will marry the two from the resolutions of the retreat and the recommendation of this thing. So I'm sure at the end of it, we are going to have a good stuff to work with, and then improve sport in Akwa Ibom.
Well, usually we like ending Fair Play every Monday with good news. Unfortunately, we'll be ending with bad news. While the contingents from the different states traveled back to their respective destinations, that of Kano State was involved in an accident, and about, so far, 22 persons, including journalists, athletes, coaches, and of course other members of the crew, have lost their lives. This is a very bad one for sports in Nigeria.
Yeah, sad one. I think we had a great 2 weeks of great, 10 days of great sporting actions in Ogun State, but I think this actually marred the whole fun and celebration. 22 of them dying, and it's really, really unfortunate. They came representing their state. Some have to abandon their families, and their families actually waiting to receive them, knowing they were on their way back. But unfortunately, this happened, and I heard the Sports Commission have promised to, put measures in place. One of it being insurance for these players, because I was opportune to see when Team Akwa Ibom departed. 12 buses on the road. It's not easy, and having to traverse this country with terrible roads, insecurity and everything. It's risky to even travel from Uyo to Calabar. It's risky to travel from Uyo to Port Harcourt, and so having to travel that long distance, and after winning medals and going back to their state, is very unfortunate. Our sympathy with them, and of course their family members, and we hope that this kind of terrible news doesn't come up again in Nigerian football or sports.
Well, thank you so much, Bassi, for your time with me on the program Fair Play. It was nice having you join me this afternoon to discuss sports. We look forward to having you again sometime soon so we can discuss, and of course further the conversation concerning the growth of sports in Akwa Ibom State and in Nigeria. Thank you so much. My name is Dianime Uko, and that's a wrap on Fair Play this afternoon. Thank you for being a part. We'll do this again next Monday, God willing. Good afternoon.
Stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up, stand up, stand up for the champions.